Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC 303, Pereira versus Prochazka 2. First things first, make sure you smash that like button. Give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is the Stats and Stacks podcast. Quick overview, as always, of the last card. Absolutely killed it. It was crazy. It was one hell of a night. All of the locks came through. Even at a last second switch, I did not like the shit Gaslam was pulling. Make sure you're giving a follow over on Twitter for updated changes. We did change to Nazareth, where I actually thought Nazareth lost, but everything was on our side. Everything was in our favor. We had Nazareth come through. Kelvin came through just for the hell of it. We had both of our dogs hit, both our overs hit, and we had the glory play hit. We had a clean sweep last week. It was one hell of a week. Big, big, big money making week. So you would think that maybe things return to the mean and we struggle this week. Fuck no. We did a lot of research. We're ready to go, locked and loaded, looking to make this back to back weeks and win some money. We have a pay per view fight card. We have a little break here after this week for like a week or two, then a 3 week, 3 weeks in a row, I think, and then another break. So we get spoiled. We have fights every single weekend. I don't know what to do with myself when we don't have fights. There's some PFL action this week as well. So just keep an eye out. We'll try to post some PFL picks sporadically if need be, especially on the break weeks. Otherwise, we're here to talk about UFC 303. I'd love to sit here and gloat about last week, but we're looking to do it again and go off on a high note before the week break. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the fight card here. It's a weird one. Some people like it, some people hate it. I'm not the biggest fan of this card, if we're being 100% honest. But I think we're going to be able to make some money on this card, and that's something I do enjoy. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Sorry, it's acting super, super strange right now. I'm just going to go ahead and take a different way in. Use good old Tapology as our bread and butter, our go-to. So let's go ahead and hop on into Tapology for you. Is that enough stalling and crush it? Yeah, it did good. All right, so very first fight of the night, we are looking at Ricky Simone going up against Vinicius Oliveira. We have Ricky Simone as a minus 250 favorite, Vinicius de Oliveira at plus 205. Over under is set at 2.5, and it's a straight pick 'em. And I understand why. This is a weird fight. I mean, on paper, this is one I circled and said I cannot wait to bet Ricky Simone. There's just levels to this shit. Ricky Simone is 31 years old, so he's in his prime. He has really, really, really good wrestling. I mean, he's short, stocky, looks like a wrestler, fights like a wrestler. That's his bread and butter. His jiu-jitsu is good to accompany his wrestling, and he's not a slouch on the feet. He can strike a little bit. He's not world class on the feet by any means, but he does carry a ton of power, and he knows how to box up there. So it's not like he's a bad striker by any means. He's fought a really hard, good level of competition. He submitted he kind of submitted Marab Delashvili. That was that weird. He went out and it was very weird at the end of the fight. But still, it still says technical guillotine. We will take it. That's a win there. Montel Jackson's a really good fighter. Took him out. Ronnie Yaya is old but was a good fighter. Ray Borg is good. Used to fought for a title. Brian Kelleher is not bad. Rafael Sunsao, Jack Shore. All of these are very, very, very good wins. And he's fought guys and lost. I mean, Mario Batista's probably a top five guy in the weight class, honestly, top 10 at least. Lost a close decision there. Lost to Song Yadong in a close fight before he got knocked out in round 5. He lost to Rob Font, who's a top 10 guy. Uriah Faber is a Hall of Famer. So not a lot of bad going on his record. The only con with him is the fact that he can get chin checked. Anderson Dos Santos chin checked him for his very first career loss. And that's not good because Anderson Dos Santos isn't that great. So getting chin checked and submitted there is not good. We've also seen him get chin checked by Rob Font. We saw Uriah Faber knock him out cold in 40 seconds. We saw Song Yadong knock him out 1 minute into round 5. So almost all of his losses are by knockout. So he carries a ton of power on the feet. He's a really good wrestler, really good jiu-jitsu, good cardio, but his chin's a liability. And that's one of the scariest things. When you're known for being put out, that's just not something I want to get behind. However, I probably will ultimately end up doing it because of who he's fighting. He's fighting Vinicius Oliveira, who had that highlight reel knockout. If he doesn't get that knockout, which is probably the knockout of the year so far, without that knockout, he's not getting a Ricky Simone matchup. He's 20-3. That's a little misleading. He's 28 years old, but he's 20-3 and fighting nobodies. Ricky Simone is fighting title challengers, multiple of them. Meanwhile, this guy is beating Victor Madgrel and Bernardo Sopaj on a week's notice. And Sylvester, I don't even know who these people are. So he hasn't really fought a good level of competition. The few guys that are good that he fought is Ali Talib, and he got knocked out in the third round. He fought Adriano Ramos. He's very good. He got knocked out in the first round. He fought Christian Quiones. Christian Quiones is not that good. He's about to get cut from the UFC. Got knocked out in the second round in that fight. So like he has 3 career losses. Yeah, he's 20-3, but he himself is pretty chinny. He's athletic though. The dude has good striking, and he himself hits very hard, which makes this an intriguing matchup. He throws a ton of volume when he's on his feet. He'll sprinkle in a takedown here and there, but and he's the thing with him. He's very kick heavy. The thing that scares me about him is I say he throws a lot of volume when he's on his feet because he's rocking a 40% takedown defense. That number's skewed. He's only had 1 fight in the UFC, only 2 under the Zuffa banner, but he got taken down in them. And he got taken down a lot in the regional scene when I was watching. This dude cannot stuff a double. There's something wrong with him. He's strong, he's athletic. You go upper body with him, he's pretty difficult to get down. But if you time a double or a single, he's going down. He can't sprawl. There's something wrong with it. He just has really bad hips. I don't know what's wrong with him. So his takedown defense is not great. And again, he has 3 losses, and they're all by knockout. He himself can get chin checked, and he slows down a little bit in his fights. So that's concerning to me because Ricky Simone is a wrestler with good cardio. This dude should kill Ricky Simone on the feet, can probably knock him out, to be honest with you. But with bad takedown defense and someone that's kick oriented, he throws a ton of kicks. Ricky Simone is going to catch one of those, and he is just going to run the pipe and get a single, or he's going to catch a kick and run right through him with the blast double. Like, he can't use all those kicks. He will get taken down with his 40% takedown defense. And if he fights unusual and doesn't do all the kicks and just stands up in his little cocky self and strikes, he's going to get taken down anyway. So he has to find the knockout or he's going to lose this fight. I don't see how he wins a decision unless he continually drops him to win the round. But I think it's KO or bust for him. For Ricky, he's not the greatest striker at all, but he has a ton of power. And we've seen Lock Dog knocked out before. We've seen it 3 times. So he could win by knockout, or he could take him down and sub him. He could take him down and just lay and prey on top. He has 3 different ways to win, and Vinicius only has one. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to pick Ricky Simone. I'm gonna ultimately put Ricky Simone in some parlays, but I am fully aware that it is buyer beware. Do not put too much stock in the Ricky Simone. Although he's the better fighter, although he should win, his one flaw is his chin, and he's fighting an athletic guy with a ton of power. Anyone can get caught at any point. The pick is Ricky Simone, the bet's Ricky Simone, but not too much exposure. All right, next fight of the night, we have Carlos Hernandez at plus 350 going up against Ray Tesora at minus 455. Sorry if I said that wrong. Over under, I set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 140. Or sorry, over 1.5 minus 140, under 1.5 at plus 110. Let's start with Carlos Hernandez because I don't think he's that great. I mean, he's 30 years old, so he's in his prime. He has good striking, pretty decent cardio. 65% takedown defense is not a good number. I've seen him offensively wrestle, and he doesn't look bad doing it offensively, but defensively, he's a little bit of a liability. His jiu-jitsu is good, not bad, but we have seen him choked out in the UFC. It was to Alan Nascimento, who's probably the best jiu-jitsu guy in this weight class. So not really any shame there. But we have seen him sub. His submission game is okay. And again, his wrestling himself is okay. He has a pretty decent get up game. But the problem is he gives up his back when he gets taken down to get up. Uh, that's not going to work against Alan Nascimento, who just simply took that back, slapped on the body triangle, and it was a wrap. Got the rear naked choke not too long after. Again, this guy wants to predicate on high volume, good striking, and that's about it. He's not very heavy fisted. He generally wins by decision. I know he has a technical knockout over Dennis Bondar, where it technically got changed to a decision. That was that really weird fight. But he got knocked out by Tai Suatara. That's kind of weird. Tyra is really a jiu-jitsu guy. Victor Altamirano split. Daniel Barres split. Trevor Wells decision. Like all of these are going to decision. Yeah, he has a rear naked choke over a guy that was 2-2 and 1-1, but his level of competition's not that good. When he did fight people that were good, Tyra and Nascimento, he got finished in round one and he got finished 1 minute into round two. So yeah, there's just levels to this. On the other side, this Ray guy, he's okay. But he's 22 and you can tell. He's very young. He's very oddly calm in the octagon, kind of like Tyra, where they're just not like amped up and they're not excited. They're just kind of like bored. Looks like they're falling asleep right before their fight. It's very strange. He has really good jujitsu. He was a what was it, like a junior Olympic wrestler or some shit like that for Japan, which sounds better than it really is, but he can wrestle a little bit. I mean, he can wrestle pretty well. You would think it's better when you hear the word Olympic, but he's a pretty decent wrestler. But his bread and butter is his jujitsu, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. His striking, you see it very little. He doesn't like to strike. It doesn't look terrible. It's kind of like when Tyra first started to strike. Yes, he's a jujitsu guy, but you can tell that he can strike if he wanted to. He just knows he prefers his jujitsu because he's better at it and he doesn't have to get hit. Same thing with this guy. He can throw strikes. He just doesn't want to. He wants to grab a hold of you, and that is exactly what he's going to try to do. This is going to be his debut after the road to UFC. Now, I generally try to fade these guys. The road to UFC is just contender series to me. And just like road to UFC, I fade contender series guys as well. I just don't think they're not always ready. And with him being 22 years old, his level of competition isn't great. There's just I don't really like trusting anyone that young. I do love how creative he is, though. He's very, very good on the ground, like shit you've never seen before. Same with Tyra, with the way he tore Alex Perez's leg the other week. I don't know if that was Tyra said he did it intentionally. Other people are saying it was just a weird circumstance with Alex. I don't know. Tyra said he set it up. So if we believe that, this guy is just as creative. You're gonna see some shit you've never seen before. He loves to scramble and he's very good at it. But on the feet, he's very low volume, so he needs to get this to the ground. He's also taking this fight on short notice. Carlos was originally slated to fight oh God, what's his name? Cody Durden. Cody Durden is a good wrestler with good jiu-jitsu, so he's training the exact same way. He's training for this opponent, only now he's getting a younger version of it. Everyone's going to call him basically Tatsuro Tairo 2.0 just because he's also Japanese and he did train with him actually. But unlike Tyra, this guy does seem to slow a little bit later on in fights. We saw him in his first road to UFC fight. It did go the full 3 rounds, and he was not the same in round three than he was in round one. But what I will say is that his back take is very good. So if he does get this fight down to the ground, Carlos always gives up his back to get up. That's not going to work here. If he gives up his back, this kid is not letting it go. I can't say that he's guaranteed to go out there and get a submission if he gets his back, but I can promise you Carlos isn't getting back up. Like Carlos generally has a good get up game, not with this guy. This guy's a different animal on the ground. So this really comes down to can Carlos sprawl and brawl? Because if he can, he's definitely has a better cardio. He definitely has a better striking, but he just doesn't have enough power for my liking. Like it's not enough to deter Ray. It's not enough to scare him off. And I think he's ultimately going to grab a hold of him and just hold him down. It's going to be a little boring if he doesn't get the finish, but no fight is boring if you're winning money. So the pick is going to be Ray. The bet is going to be Ray, but I will be ready to fade him relatively soon. I mean, hell, I'm still ready to fade Tyro if you give me the right guy. This isn't it. Next fight of the night, we have old man Andre Arlovsky at plus 200 going up against Martin Boudet at minus 245. Over 2.5 is minus 140, under 2.5 at plus 145. Let's start with Martin Boudet. I'll be honest with you, Martin Boudet sucks. He's not that good. He's 13-2, but he's nothing to be scared of. He's big. He's very big for the weight class. He is the full 265. His striking's okay. Marches forward, has a ton of pressure. His jiu-jitsu, he just got promoted to a BJJ black belt, so he does have a good ground game on him. Or at least, I mean, Jared Vandera is a BJJ black belt, so at least on top, they're good. On the bottom, on their back, they're not used to being there. I'm not really scared of him, hitting a go-go plotter or something. But he's decent on top. We saw him Kimura, Josh Parisian. His clinch work is his bread and butter. This is might be the most boring fighter in the heavyweight division. He's not out there to go out there and finish you. He's not out there to go out there and get knockouts. He wants to push you up against the cage and just dirty box the entire time. He doesn't have a ton of power on him. He's very slow physically, but he does throw a ton of volume, and he does have good cardio for someone at 265. He's extremely hittable with this style because he can't strike out in the open. He has to take his big body, push you against the cage, and dirty box. That's literally all he can do. But he's generally pretty durable if you do hit him. He doesn't like getting pressured. That's the thing. He loves to move forward. He loves to pressure you, put you up against that cage. If you pressure him, he doesn't know how to react. That's what we saw Shamil Gaziev do to him. He just didn't. He's never been pressured like that before. He fought someone that was his size, and he didn't really know how to react. And I think he was just trying to wait it out and kind of do a little bit of the rope-a-dope ordeal. But he got standing TKO'd. He let too many shots get through, too many as he was waiting for Shamil to get tired. Good news for him is that he's fighting Andrei Arlovsky, who's not going to do that. He is not someone that pressures anybody. He is not someone that is just as big as Shamil, as Martin. Yeah, Andrei's 45 years old. Like, there's a lot of cons with Andrei Arlovsky. I will give the devil his due. He's 45 and still doing the damn thing. He has okay striking. He has okay cardio, but that's because he doesn't throw a ton anymore. He wants to go out there and box you. He wants to just have a sparring match. That's all he wants to do. And if he's able to just have a sparring match with you, the judges will give it to him. There have been so many losses to Andrei Arlovsky as of late, just out of sheer respect. He beat Jake Collier. No way, shape, or form should he have won that fight, but it was a split given to Andre because they respect the old man. He beat Jared Vandera. No way, shape, or form did he win that fight, but it was close enough, so they gave the split to old man Arlovsky. The Carlos Felipe fight was very, very close, but was a unanimous decision to Andre Arlovsky. Like, if it's Tanner Boser, very, very close fight, but they gave it to old man Andre Arlovsky. You had to go out there and finish him, honestly. The last time he lost a decision was 2019 to Augusto Sakai. That's not true. He lost to Waldo Acosta in his very last fight. I apologize. But that was so much of a one-sided drubbing that there was no confusing that. But outside of that, you have to go all the way back to 2019, 5 years ago. The guys that are beating him, Rosenstruck knocked him out. Tom Aspinall choked him out. Dontel Mays knocked him out. DeLima choked him out. That's the way to do it. You got to get him out of there. And you can, dude. He's 45 years old, for fuck's sake. He himself is pretty slow. He has 76% takedown defense. So it may not be easy for Martin Boudet to show off that flashy new black belt and take him down and sub him. But if he doesn't take him down, that's fine. He doesn't care. He doesn't want the takedown. He wants to push you up against the cage and dirty box for 15 minutes. It's so boring. It's so annoying. But if you have money on it, it's fine. Also, Andre, he's old, man. He had a bad chin 10 years ago. That chin, he's been hiding it with his sparring matches, but people are catching on. Again, Dontel knocked him out. DeLima, it says rear naked choke, but it was a club and sub. Tom Aspinall rocked him really badly round one before he just took him down and choked him out. He's been rocked in all these fights, so this chin is not better. He just has other people that will stand with him and do the sparring ordeal. Martin will not. Martin wants to go forward and clinch work you to death. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to go with the youth and 32-year-old Martin Boudet. Martin Boudet sucks, but this is a tailor-made matchup for him. The pick is Martin Boudet. The bet is Martin Boudet. Next, next fight of the night is one that has a little more grease on it. We have the karate hottie, Michelle Waterson Gomez, taking on Jillian Robertson. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 190. Under 2.5 at plus 145. Let's start with the Savage and Jillian Robertson. Jiu-jitsu. That's it. We can move on because she has nothing else. She can't really wrestle. Her striking has improved. I'll give the devil her due. when she first came in the UFC, she literally didn't know how to throw a punch. Now she can, she can stand a little, but it's not good. She's going to get hit. She's very hittable on the feet. Um, and her wrestling isn't good. But she spent a lot of her time at 125 since dropping down to 115. We saw improvements. We've seen her take down Polyana Viana easily. She even took down Tabitha Ricci at one point. She took down Piera Rodriguez. Maria Agapova was up at 125, actually. So from the Pierre Rodriguez fight on, she's gotten takedowns because she's bigger at 115. That's good for her. She's a better wrestler at 115. Still not a good wrestler, but better at 115. She also applies pressure a ton because she needs to get close to get the takedown. She is not a good striker by any means. She's not pressuring you to try to knock you out. She's pressuring you to try to get a hold of you so that she can drag you down to the ground. But ultimately, she has world class jujitsu, and that's it. You see all of these grappling competitions she's doing with Nikki Sullivan, with Montana De La Rosa, taking on, I think she beat Rose Yamahunas in one of these. Yeah, she does a lot of grappling competitions in the middle. She's not sugarcoating that that's what she wants to do. That's what she's good at. That's all she can basically do is grapple. But she is damn good at it. On the other side, we have Michelle Waterson Gomez, who's definitely a lot more well rounded, but she has one massive red flag on her resume, and the fact that she is 38 years old. The Karate Hottie was a title challenger at one point, but she used to fight at 105. And at this point, 38-year-old fighting at 115, not a fan. She's good striking still. It doesn't matter that she's 38. She's still a good striker. Very kick heavy. She's kind of like Pooja Tamar on steroids with her back kick, her little side kick of death that Pooja used against Ryan Dos Santos. Michelle Waterson uses it even more. Her jujitsu's not bad though. She's pretty decent on the ground. And she herself has been sprinkling takedowns here and there. She will mix one in to try to steal around. She has good cardio. She does everything well, but she gets clipped a lot with boxers. And people like Marina Rodriguez was able to dominate her. People like oh God. Ioana Jędrzejczyk was able to go out there and dominate her. Amanda Lemos, all these girls, Rose or not Rose, Tisha Pennington, all these girls are really really boxing heavy. The girls like Carla Esparza who are grappling heavy. She went to a split with Carla, who was a former two-time champion and one of the best wrestlers in the division. So at the end of the day, she's she is what it is. Even Luana Pinheiro struggled to take her down. She has 70% takedown defense. She's good against other kickboxers. She's okay. It struggles, but it's close against other wrestlers. She keeps losing splits. She lost a split to Carla. She lost a split to Luana. And then if you give her like a boxer, she's in some trouble. You're giving her a BJJ girl. So I don't really know, but in order to use your Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you have to wrestle her. And again, she usually goes to splits with wrestlers. So I wouldn't be shocked if this one went to a split. It's not going to be deciding it all. But if I'm saying this thing is pretty 50-50 and she has a chance of winning, she is plus 155 currently. I'm not even going to chase a split. I'm just going to take that money line. I don't even have to take decision. Michelle Waterson at plus 155 in a 50-50 fight all day. Give it to me. The pick is Michelle Waterson. The bet is Michelle Waterson. Next fight of the night, we can actually save some time on because this is going to be a massacre. We have Peyton Talbot at minus, God, what is it? Minus 1,600 right now. Going up against Yanis Gamori at plus 900. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5, minus 165. Under 1.5 at plus 130. Let's just start with Peyton Talbot. Talbot is actually not a bad jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's pretty good on the ground, but he's predominantly a striker. He's 25 years old. Another one of these young kids that just don't seem to care, have no emotion whatsoever, just marches forward. Pressure, pressure, pressure. 8-0, undefeated. Has fought some decent guys and Jose Reyes, or Junior Reyes. He fought Nick Aguirre, is not great. He fought Cameron Simon, who's okay. Like he's fought some okay guys, especially for him only being 25 years old. Those are appropriate wins. 90% takedown defense. Now Nick tries to wrestle, so does Reyes Cortez as a credentialed wrestler. Cameron Simon will try to wrestle on occasion. So like these aren't terrible wrestlers, and 90% takedown defense is a good number. The best part about him is his volume and his cardio. He never stops throwing and he never gets tired. Like the dude literally is still breathing out of his nose and looks bored in round three. He does not get tired, does not stop moving forward, he does not stop throwing punches, and he breaks you. He just physically breaks you. You can't keep up the pace that Peyton Talbot puts on you, and eventually he's gonna sub you, he's gonna choke you out, or he's gonna punch your lights in like he did with Cameron Simon and with people like even Reyes Cortez. Junior Cortez went a whole 15 with him, and he was gasping for air and badly hurt at the end of it. It was just too much pressure, too much volume, too much Peyton Talbot. On the other side, we have Gamori. I was trying to find a way where he can win this fight, considering he's plus 900. I want to take the stab on Gamori. I mean, just the money line alone is worth it, but I don't know where. He's 29 years old, and he's pretty much a generalist. He's an okay striker. He's an okay wrestler, not even probably even worse wrestler. Honestly, he couldn't take down William Gomi. And his jujitsu's okay. He has a few jujitsu or submission wins on his record. Probably his best chance of victory is catching him in a sub, maybe getting the back and somehow getting the rear naked choke. But that's about it, man. He was brought in for the France card because they need French fighters on a France card. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the UFC. That's the only reason he's even signed. His schedule is god awful. He's generally pretty durable. It shows his last fight was a knockout loss, but that was a very questionable loss of William Gomi. He low blowed him. The ref called off the fight instead of giving him time to recover. No one sees that as a loss. He really really didn't get knocked out there. He was going to lose the fight. He was losing all three rounds. Don't get me wrong. But he didn't get knocked out at all. Like he was perfectly fine. He just got low blowed, and the ref thought it was a legal strike. What can you do there? But he's hittable on the feet, and it's not good. If you fight nobodies and you're getting questionable wins, and it's going to split with some of these guys, like I don't know, man. He's not really UFC caliber. He was just there because they were in France, and now he's getting sacrificed to Peyton Talbot. So at the end of the day, the pick is Peyton Talbot, but you can't bet that at 1,600. I don't know how to bet this fight, to be perfectly honest with you. I have no idea. I think this is a complete pass because you're wasting your time with minus 1,600, and he could sub him or he can knock him out. But the knockout prop is like minus 250. I don't want to touch that in case he gets a submission. So he could even go to decision. Again, Gamori's only been knocked out once, and it wasn't even a real knockout. I wouldn't be surprised if this went to decision. So I don't know. I don't know. You pass. The pick is going to be Peyton Talbot, and I'm actually saying pass on this fight because there's zero value whatsoever. Next fight of the night, we are looking at Charles Air Jourdain at minus 120, going up against Gene Silva at plus 100. Over under at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 135. Under 2.5 at plus 105. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a Gene Silva hater. I don't think he's good by any means. I think he is pretty good striking. He's 27 years old. He has decent power on him. He hits pretty hard. I'll give him that. He trains over at Fight Nerds with Kyle Barallo, was Marcio Rufy, like good guys over at Fight Nerd. I'll give him that. 100% takedown defense, but again, skewed. He fought Weston Wilson, and he fought a 20-year-old in Kevin Vallejo in Contender Series. So he fought a kid and Weston Wilson. So I don't know about that 100% takedown defense. Questionable. I don't like how low he keeps his hands. I do not like how slowly he walks to the octagon. Him and Tamara's Vidal, I cannot stand when they fight because I know it's going to take 20 minutes for the fight to even start. I don't like his schedule. His cardio is okay, but he definitely slows down a lot in the third. He throws pretty decent volume, but his hands are so fucking low. He has that karate style that they all have at Fighting Nerd. They called Rufy looks like Conor McGregor with his karate stance. Well, Kyle Barallo has the same karate stance, and so does Gene Silva. They all do it. It seems effective. They're all winning. I'll give him that. But if someone's gonna fuck this up, it's him. He's the worst one out of the bunch. There's always one that's not as good as the others, even though he does the same thing. It's Silva. His BJJ is questionable. I've seen him get takedowns in the past, but he has zero top control whatsoever. So that makes me think I've never seen him off his back, but I've seen him on top, and it wasn't good. So maybe he has nothing off his back too. I have no clue, but it doesn't look great. Doesn't look promising. But that level of competition is what I can't get behind. Weston Wilson might be his best one, literally. Like he fought absolute cans. So at the end of the day, low hands, karate style. We don't know about his wrestling. We don't know about his jujitsu. This is way too closely aligned because we do know Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain is not old by any means. He's still only 29 years old. He was super young when he joined the UFC. It was like 4 years ago. So he was like 24, 25 when he joined. He has good striking. He has world class jujitsu. Can't wrestle. That's the problem. 48% takedown defense and doesn't offensively wrestle. So he's one of these guys like Kevin Holland who has a BJJ black belt in their back pocket. When they get taken down to the ground, you can see how good they are on the ground. They'll slap on a guillotine or an anaconda if they sprawl out, but they're never taking you down and submitting you. They are that good on the ground, but they just don't use it. They use their striking. They like to strike, and they're good at it. And Jourdain is featherweight Kevin Holland, man. He only without power. That's the difference. Kevin Holland hits hard. Jourdain does not, but he throws a ton of volume, a ton of volume. He has good cardio. Has fought a really good level of competition, unlike Gene Silva. Uh, he doesn't like getting pressured a lot. That does seem to kind of hurt him a little bit. However, that's not how Gene Silva fights. He's the karate style guy that wants to counter and put you out. He's a counter striker. Jourdain, also a counter striker. So this could be a little more boring than anticipated. But Jourdain is someone who I think will feed off of the audience. He's a little bit of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I've seen him look world class against Kron Gracie. I saw him look world class against Ricardo Ramos. He looked world class against Andre Ewell. But then we've also seen him lay just, and he even looked world class against Shane Burgos in a loss. But we saw him against Nathaniel Wood look terrible. We saw him look terrible against Julian Erosa and gas when he never gasses. Andre Feely, I know it was his first or second fight in the UFC, but he didn't look great there. So yeah, or even the Josh Kulabau fight, Marcelo Rojo, he looked absolutely terrible in a win. Like you never know what version you're gonna get, and whether it's a good competition, bad competition. I don't know. And his last fight is a split decision to Sean Woodson. So I don't know what to do with that. He's entering his prime. He's in his prime right now at 29. I've seen good Charles Jourdain. Good Charles Jourdain mollywops Gene Silva. Bad Charles Jourdain, I don't know. He's very durable. I don't think he gets knocked out, but he's playing with fire here. So the pick is going to be Charles Jourdain. He's the more proven entity. The bet's probably just going to take the over 2.5 and play it safe. I don't know why it's lined at minus 135. Gene Silva is a finisher of low level competition, but he fought one decent guy on the contender series and went the distance. Charles Jourdain's a decent fighter who's never been knocked out, and Charles Jourdain doesn't have a ton of knockout power. So this over 2.5 being minus 135 is kind of a bargain. The pick is going to be Charles, which is a bargain in and of itself, but the bet is going to be the over 2.5. Why pick a side when you don't have to? Over 2.5. Good line, good money. Next fight of the night is another very close one where I might just have to take a total because I don't know what to do with it. We have Cub Swanson at plus 200 going up against Andre Touchy Feely at minus 245. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 135. Under 2.5 plus 105, just like the last fight. Let's start with Cub Swanson because Cub Swanson's old as shit. Cub Swanson is 40 years old. This dude was fighting in WEC. I remember watching this dude fight in middle school and being a Cub Swanson fan. So that's concerning. He has good striking, a sneaky good jujitsu. Wrestling's never been there. 61% takedown defense, doesn't really offensively wrestle unless he's trying to steal a win like he did against Hakeem Dawodu in his last matchup. But he also keeps his hands very low in that karate style. He's generally pretty durable, but he's 40 years old. Like, it's starting to catch up with him. We saw him rocked in the Dawodu fight. We saw him knocked out against Martinez with leg kicks. It wasn't his chin, but leg kicks. We saw him get liver kicked against Giga Chikadze. A liver kick's going to put anyone out, but again, that's back-to-back knockouts. It doesn't look great. Natsu Moicano choked him out. Brian Ortega choked him out because he slowed down a little bit. Same with Max Holloway, choked him out. Frank Yeager choked him out. You're seeing a common theme here. Ricardo Lagos choked him out. I did not realize how many times he got choked out. Jens Pulver too. Interesting. So most of his losses actually are by submission, but he's a BJJ black belt, so that's weird. I don't see Feely tapping him out. Feely is not that good on the ground. I will say Swanson's the better jiu-jitsu practitioner, but Swanson's predominantly a 40-year-old striker. That's what we have here. He can't wrestle, not apparently not great on the ground, but can strike his ass off. But he's 40, man. He's just deteriorating. On the other side, we have Touchy Feely. We talked about Charles Jourdain not being reliable. Andre Feely might be even worse. He's another Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. For the first time of the night, we do see a significant reach advantage. We have 4 inches on the Feely side, which I like. He himself is good striking, good cardio, not a ton of power. He has a few first round knockouts on his record, but he knocked out Lucas Almeida round one, who's pretty chinny, honestly. He knocked out Maurice in round one, who's pretty chinny. Otherwise, the thing that scares me about Feely is that he always fights to the level of his competition. He himself is a little chinny at times, and the amount of split decisions on this guy's record, man. Like, literally in the UFC, he's been in the UFC since 2013, right? Let's see. He got choked out by Max, which is fine. Decision. These are just normal decisions. But then I guess it's kind of as of late. I mean, 2018 split decision win against Dennis Bermudez. Michael Johnson split decision loss. His next fight was a decision. Then we have Sadiq Youssef was a decision loss. Charles Jourdain. We just talked about Charles Jourdain. Split decision win. Bryce Mitchell decision. The eye poke with Daniel Beneda. Then we have a split decision win against Bill Algeo. He goes to split all the fucking time. It's weird. So at the end of the day, Swanson can't be trusted because of his age. Feely is at a grapple heavy camp in Team Alpha Male, but is predominantly a striker, which never made any sense to me. And he's getting pretty chinny with age. 70% takedown defense, but he will mix in a takedown here and there to steal the round. And I think that's how Feely gets this done. I think it's going to be really, really, really close on the feet. Feely gets a takedown towards the end of the round to seal it. And one judge is going to give it to Swanson out of veteran respect, and the other two are going to give it to Feely because it was a close fight and he got the takedowns. So the pick is going to be Andre Feely. The bet is going to ultimately be Feely by probably by split. I might sprinkle that. But I will take Feely here, and I do like the over 2.5 in this one as well. Obviously, if I'm talking split decision, so the pick is Feely. The bet is the over. Feely. No, I don't like Feely at this line though. At minus 245. So the pick is going to be the over 2.5 at minus 135, or you can do Feely split decision and see what that line is. It's probably something juicy. Next fight of the night. B. Joe Pyfer at our lock cutoff line at minus 300, taking on Power Bar Mark Andre Barrio plus 240. Over under set at 2.5 for this one. Over 2.5 plus 115. Under 2.5 at minus 145. Let's start with Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer is good, man. I don't really know where he's bad. He's 27 years old, so he's entering. This is his prime entering it. He has good jiu-jitsu. He's training over at Hensel Gracie with Sean Brady and Randy Brown and all of those guys. He has good striking, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, a ton of power, knocking everyone out. All of that is great. He's good everywhere. The problems he has is 50% takedown defense. We did see Dustin Stolfus take him down in his Contender Series fight before he broke his arm. And then he did slow down in that Jack Hermanson fight. Everyone had question marks with all these early finishes. Can he go a hard 15 minutes? Well, the answer is he can go 15 minutes. Can't go 25. He definitely lost 3, 4, and 5, but round 3 was relatively close. Round 4 and 5 were clearly Jack. But he looked great for the first two. And that's the thing. This is a 15-minute fight. All he has to do is win the first 10 minutes. So do I think he can do that against Marc Andre Barrio? Definitely. I do think Joe Pyfer is the more talented fighter here. The only concern I have is that power bar is known for his cardio. That's his best quality, is literally pressuring forward and making you tired because he's rib roasting you and letting you hit him. Like you get tired from punching him. Meanwhile, he's attacking your body. You ultimately just get drained. He has a ton of volume and then he drowns you late. So that does concern me against someone with cardio issues. And again, Mark is good on the feet. He's a good striker. He's pretty pillow fisted. He was knocking people out back when he was on the sauce. He popped for gear, and then he really hasn't gotten a knockout since. So now he's pillow fisted. He's clean, but can't hit hard. Great cardio. Okay, jujitsu. 67% takedown defense. That's another area where Joe could probably capitalize. If he wants to take him down, I think he can. Maybe that's a strategy. Take him down and hold him down when you need a breather. That could be it. Yeah, his wrestling's not great. And his jiu-jitsu's just 50-50 there. It's wish-washy. But he's a good striker and he has a ton of cardio. And that's concerning. A ton of volume and a ton of cardio are things that you don't like going against Joe Pyfer. But although Marc Andre is generally durable, we did see him get knocked out very easily against Chidi Njokuani. He tried to go cardio for cardio with Anthony Hernandez. That didn't work at all. We also saw him chin checked by Julian Marquez 2 fights ago or 3 fights ago. He got chin checked by Eric Anders. So we're starting to see some cracks. He's 34 years old. The whole Bart Simpson, let him beat the hell out of me as I continue to throw volume at you until you get tired, is starting to catch up with him. We saw him knocked out. We saw him wobbled. And sorry, we saw him knocked out and wobbled 2 times in his last 2, 3, 4, 5 fights there. So I don't know. I think the age, he's 34 years old now. I know the cutoff when they start fading is usually 35. So he's hitting the cutoff. And Joe is hitting his prime. And I think Joe can win a decision and just win the first two and coast. Or I think Joe could get him out of there because he hits that damn hard. So the pick is going to be Joe Pyfer. The bet is going to be Joe Pyfer. Minus 300 is a lot to ask. I don't want to touch that over under. So I'll probably ultimately end up parlaying Joe Pyfer with something. Next fight of the night is one I'm excited for, man. A lot of people don't like Michael Venom Page, myself included, to be honest with you. But any chance Ian Gary has to get knocked out, I'm for. Ian Machado Gary minus 140, Michael Venom Page plus 120, over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 minus 200, under 2.5 at plus 155. Let's start with Gary because he is good. I'll give the devil his due. He's only 26 years old. He's 14-0. He has some decent wins on his record, like Jeff Neal and Neil Magny. Daniel Rodriguez, D-Rod's not a bad fighter. Gabe Green's not a bad fighter. They're pushing him the correct fashion, the correct way, appropriate steps. Sneaky good jujitsu, man. The kid's actually very, very good on the ground, but he prefers to strike. He loves to counter. He's a good striker on the feet. He has really good cardio, pretty much infinite cardio, pretty decent volume while he's on the feet. His wrestling's not great though, man. When I went back and did fight tape, my first thoughts are I might bet Ian Gary by sub because he's so good on the ground and no one knows this might be the time where he capitalizes. But how's it going to get there? He can't really wrestle. It's not that good. He had a few takedowns against Neil Magny, but Neil Magny was on one leg from the leg kicks. And then they were trip takedowns where he just threw him down to the ground because Neil couldn't put any pressure on his leg. He didn't really take him down. He just pushed over a one-legged fighter. So I don't know, man. And my biggest quarrel with him is that he's very cocky. I cannot stand that. And that he's chinny. The dude, no one's talking about it. whatchamacallit, Kanan Song chin checked him. Like that was his first career loss. If he didn't pop right back up, he was in some serious trouble. The end of that first round, the dude was out on his feet. Like had no idea where he was. We saw him chin checked against Jordan Williams, and I've seen him chin checked on the regional scene. I've seen this guy hit with stuff at least 4 times to where I thought he was done. The dude, and there's videos and talks of him in training camp getting knocked out. So I don't know, man. People have rumors that he's chinny, and I've seen this dude drop multiple times. I do think he has a little bit of a chin problem, especially being 26 years old. When he gets older in his career, I think he is in some serious trouble. Um, but I don't really want to bet against him because he is a student of the game. He is relatively smart. And here's the thing: he's not afraid to be boring. If he has to grab a hold of Michael Venom Page and just literally hold him up against the fence for 15 minutes, he will. And then he will talk shit as if he was God's gift on the mic. That's the thing. The kid's good on the mic. He'll try his hardest to sell himself. He'll blame his opponent. He was very boring against Jeff Neal, made it sound like he's ready to get a title shot and called out Colby. He was very boring against Neil Magny. He was very boring against Darian Weeks. Like he's had multiple boring fights in the UFC, but he gets on the mic and acts like he just is a current champion. Like it's insane, and he doesn't care. That's the thing. This dude is pretty mentally stable, especially with all the wife stuff going on and the WAG accusations and stuff. Dude doesn't care if he's boring. He will go out there and do whatever it takes to win. And he is went into straight just he trained at Sanford MMA. I forgot Killcliff is what it's called now. He's training with Charles Oliveira right now. He trained with Leon Edwards over in Britain. The guy is training he trained at SBG Ireland. The dude is trained everywhere. He doesn't care. He's going, he learns something and he goes to the next camp. He goes somewhere, he learns something, he goes to the next camp. And he is just like an encyclopedia of fight knowledge. I'll give the devil his due. He is married to the game, literally. Like even his wife is involved in jujitsu, or her family. But the dude is a student of the game. I just think he's a cocky son of a bitch, and he can be very boring at times. On the other side, Michael Venom Page is definitely overrated. World class striking. The dude is one of the best strikers in the UFC, bar none. He carries a ton of power in his tall little lanky ass. He hits very, very hard. The problem with him is that he's 37 years old. He's coming into the UFC very light. He spent all of his prime over in Bellator. Yeah, and it was just like Michael Chandler. He's just coming over a little too late. It is what it is. He's very hard to hit. He has that very annoying karate style where it's kind of his own. He just bounces and dances around the entire time, and then he blitzes in. And when he blitzes in with power, and he hurts people. He has a 5-inch reach advantage in this matchup. His jiu-jitsu is not great at all. His wrestling's not great at all. We saw Kevin Holland. He has 66% takedown defense on paper in the UFC. He's only had one fight, so the number is skewed. But he fought Kevin Holland. You shouldn't have 60% takedown defense when you fought Kevin fucking Holland. I talk about how Ian Gary can't wrestle. Neither can Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland should take down nobody. So his wrestling's questionable. His jiu-jitsu is questionable. Yeah, man, I don't know. But he's very, very quick, and he's very, very cocky himself. This is a cocky off. Um, it's just he hits so goddamn hard, and he's so hard to hit. Ian Gary definitely has a jiu-jitsu edge, but he's a little chinny. Can Michael Venom Page catch him? He has 15 minutes to do so. He has good cardio for being a 37-year-old that bounces around the entire time. Very, very, very good cardio. So yeah, both guys have good cardio. Both guys have good striking. One guy has power. One guy has a bad chin. I think Michael can catch him. But if he doesn't and Ian Gary gets him down to the ground, I think Ian Gary can sub him. So what I'm probably leaning is the under 2.5. Under 2.5 is plus 155. If this fight goes the distance, I could see it happening because they're both counter strikers. When two counter strikers fight each other, it's the most boring affair. The crowd's booing. No one's understanding why this is happening. It's because they want to counter. And if you have two counter strikers, no one's throwing. There's nothing to counter. So they just stare at each other the whole fucking time. This could potentially be the most boring fight on the card. Or one of them can push the pace, one of them can go forward, and that would leave the other one susceptible to getting taken down if you're Michael Venom Page, and or it could be susceptible to getting knocked out if you're Ian Gary. So I'm tempted with that under 2.5 at plus 155. I am tempted. But what I think I'm just going to take is Michael Page at plus 120. I think I mean, honestly, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do dog or pass. The pick is going to be Ian Gary, but I'm not going to bet him at all. I'm only betting Michael Venom Page, and I'm betting him by himself in a sheer dog or pass. Next fight of the night. We have a straight pick 'em, baby. We have Myra Bueno Silva minus 110, Macy Chase on minus 110, over 2.5 minus 190, under 2.5 at plus 145. Let's start with Myra Bueno Silva. Bueno's interesting to have in her name because she's not that good. She has great jujitsu, very, very good on the ground. Her striking has improved. She's gotten much better on the feet, but she is still hittable. Her wrestling's not great. We saw her take down Raquel Pennington a few times in the title fight, but outside of that, she's not wrestling too much. She wrestled a Yanan Wu, who she just bodied. But Lena Landsberg, she couldn't really wrestle. Stephanie Egger, that only lasted 1 minute. All these other fights, she's preferring the strike. And again, she's okay striking, but her bread and butter is her jujitsu. So when all shit hit the fan and she knew it was for a title, all of a sudden she put on her singlet and wanted to use her jujitsu and wrestle. So at least she knows what she's best at. When she fought Holly Holm in a number one contenders fight, she used her jujitsu. Now she popped afterwards. It wasn't even it was like a anxiety medication or something like that. It wasn't even steroids, so that was interesting. It's still a no contest. But at the end of the day, her bread and butter is jujitsu. She's an okay striker. She cannot wrestle, but she has pretty decent jujitsu. She's slowed down from time to time in her fights, and she's pretty hittable. Also, her wins aren't that good. I don't know how this girl was fighting for a title after getting a win over Lena Landsberg, because the Holly Holm one didn't count. So technically, she beat Lena Landsberg and got a title. But even if you do include Holly Holm, she was 40 fucking years old, and she caught her with a ninja choke. It was weird. Stephanie Egger's not that good. Yanan Wu's god awful and cut. Manon Farot kicked the absolute shit out of her and sent her up to 135. Montana De La Rosa's okay. She's not that great. Mara Borello's not that great. And the Montana fight was a draw. Mara is no longer in the promotion. She lost Marina Moroz. Marina Moroz is getting knocked out in her last fight. I mean, Jillian Robertson's a decent win, I guess. That might be legitimately, if you don't count Holly Holm, that is her best win, is Jillian Robertson. That's saying something. Her level of competition's not that great. On the other side, might be worse. Macy Jason is not that good. First and foremost, she's a Ultimate Fighter champion. So she's a tough winner. She's an Ultimate Fighter winner, and so that's part of the reason she's in the position where she is. But you do have to be careful with her because she usually fights at 145. She decided she's going to always make that cut down to 135, and so we got to see if this fight even happens because she does struggle to make 135. She is not going to look good on weigh-in day. I'll tell you that right now. And what I did notice at 135 is that she has a propensity to slow down a little bit in her fight. She gets tired. We saw her get knocked out in the third round by Irene Aldana. We saw her get choked out at the end of the second by Raquel Pennington. The girl gets tired. And we saw her dropped really badly against Norma Dumont round three. The girl is always struggling in the third round. And I think part of that is just the weight cut, man. It's just too much on her body. She's 32 years old. She'll have a 5.5 inch reach advantage here, which is nice. If she decides to use it, her striking's not terrible. She's a Muay Thai fighter. She's tall, lanky, has good knees in the clinch. Like, she's a good fighter. It's just her fight against Penny Kianzad, her fight against Irene Aldana, her fight against Norma Dumont. She's wrestling. She fell in love with her ground game, and she all of a sudden has, although she grew up a striker, has put on her singlet, and she's never taken it off. It worked for her one time on the ground, and she decided that's what she's always doing. Again, her jujitsu's okay. It's not bad. She has good jujitsu. Her wrestling's okay. She took Norma Dumont down 5 times. It's not easy to do. So she is an okay wrestler. She is good on the ground. But Myra Bueno Silva is hittable, and you have a 5.5 inch reach advantage. You keep this standing, you jab her to death, you win easy. But I don't think she's going to do that. I think Chase On is not going to be able to help herself, and she's going to go for a takedown. And when she goes for a takedown, she's going to get ninja choked. She has these long, lanky arms with that 5.5 inch reach advantage. She's going to get armbarred. And when you look at Myra Bueno Silva's record, she has 10 wins. Like 4 of them are by armbar. She loves the armbar. Half of her wins are by armbar. And you're going to take her down with your just long, luscious looking arms to her. She is going to snap that in half. She just fought a tall, lanky fighter in Stephanie Egger and snapped her arm in half. Please do not take her down, Macy Chiasson. You can win this fight by being boring and jabbing her to death, but that's not what she's going to do. I promise you, there's something in her that's good. She will not be able to rev. She will not be able to resist getting the takedown. And when she does, she's probably getting submitted. So the pick is going to be Mayra Bueno Silva. The pick is going to be Mayra Bueno Silva. And this line keeps flip flopping back and forth. If you ever see a plus sign next to Mayra, you smash it real fast before the line goes back to a pick 'em. Because Mayra Bueno Silva is going to win this fight by submission. And make sure you check what that line is when that prop comes out. Then that takes us to one of the last fights of the evening. We have this really low level put together, sorry, this very last minute put together fight in Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. This was Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. Khalil Roundtree fell off, and it became Jamal Hill versus Carlos Olberg. Jamal Hill fell off, and it became Carlos Olberg versus Anthony Smith. Carlos Olberg fell off, and now it became Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. So somehow Jamal Hill versus God, I remember Khalil Roundtree turned into Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. No fucking clue how that happened, but it is what it is. I don't hate the fight, but this is Roman returning to 205. He went down, he fought at 185 for a while, looked good at 185, but he just hit a wall. Someone like Nasruddin Imavov, who's proven to be a very, very good, formidable top 5 level middleweight, can't beat him. Someone like Marvin Vettori, who's fought for the title twice, although I thought Roman won the fight, mind you, ultimately got a decision loss. Fought someone like Trevin Giles, who's just an absolute dog, has no chin, but is very, very talented. Didn't get the win in another very, very close decision. So he just essentially is saying, short notice, fuck it, going back up to 205 where I never lost. And part of the reason he never lost is because no one at 205 can wrestle. Alex Pereira is champion right now because no one at 205 wrestles. And no one at 205 is good jiu-jitsu. Roman Dolidze also doesn't really wrestle. He does it on occasion, but he doesn't do it too often. But his jiu-jitsu is world class. He's an ADCC world champion at heavyweight, I think, actually. He is by far the best jiu-jitsu practitioner at 205, and one of the best at 185, hands down, not even close. You have your Andre Munizes at 185. You have your Brendan Allens at 185. I am going to take Roman Dolidze. And at 205, Paul Craig, I'm taking Roman Dolidze. Like, it's not even close at 205. There's no one at 205 that has better jiu-jitsu than Roman Dolidze. World class on the ground. The thing is, he doesn't wrestle all the time to use it. And when he's on the feet, he's not a good striker by any means. He's very hittable. He is not a good striker. But the dude cracks. The dude hits very, very, very hard. It only takes one. He needs to take one because he doesn't throw a lot. It's very low volume. But when he hits you, you feel it. And when you hit him, I know Imavov rocked him pretty badly. But outside of that, he's pretty durable. He's never been knocked out, and he has a few fights at heavyweight and multiple at light heavyweight. His cardio is not great. He does slow down. So him taking a fight on short notice doesn't sound great to me. But whatever, it is what it is. He's a finisher. He has great jiu-jitsu and a ton of power on the feet. Although it's sloppy and it's very low volume, dude cracks. On the other side, we have Anthony Smith, who I absolutely hate. Anthony Smith. He won me a ton of money his last time out against Vitor Petrino. So I have a newfound respect for my boy Anthony Smith. I always knew how he is, though. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has okay striking. His wrestling's not great, honestly. Neither one of these guys can wrestle. He has a good level of competition. I mean, has fought for the title, for fuck's sake. But he's getting a little chinny with his old age. We saw Khalil Roundtree put him out. We saw Glover Teixeira beat the absolute dog shit out of him. We saw Johnny Walker rock him multiple times. We saw Magomed Ankalaev just maul him on the ground. Granted, he hurt his leg in that fight, so that was kind of weird. Even the rematch with Ryan Spann, he got chin checked multiple times. The dude is starting to slow down with his old age. And it's not even the fact that he's 35, it's the fact that he is 37 and 19. Like, the dude has 56 career fights. Like that's a lot on your body, especially at 35 years old. So, I don't know, man. He's starting to slow down a little bit cardio wise as well with his old age. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with this fight. Both of them are taking it on short notice. Both of them are 35 years old. Both of them are starting to have bad cardio. Neither one of them can wrestle. So then you're looking at the volume of Anthony Smith versus the power of Roman Dolidze. Uh, I don't know. Pick your poison. The over under set at 1.5. Can't even play that route because I would just bet the over. But the over is minus 240. And what if Anthony Smith gets caught? Roman hits that hard. So I don't fucking know what to do with this fight. I really want to genuinely pass. If anything, I was gonna bet Roman as a dog, but Roman's the fucking favorite. Roman's minus 150 and Anthony Smith is plus 115. So the pick is gonna be Roman, I guess. The bet, it's gonna have to be a I don't kind of fucking know. It's gonna have to be a dog or pass, I guess. I guess I would bet Anthony Smith, but I would highly recommend just passing on this volatile fight. It's very, very volatile. The pick is Roman, the bet is gonna be Anthony Smith, but I wouldn't suggest it. Next fight of the night is our co-main event of the evening, and honestly, the people's main event. We have the last second slapped on fight of Brian Ortega plus 120 going up against Diego Lopez at minus 140. Over 2.5 is plus money at plus 110. Under 2.5 at minus 140. Let's start with Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega has a very good level of competition and fought for the title. Brian Ortega has very good cardio, wins a lot of his fights in the third, fourth, fifth round. Has world class jiu-jitsu. That's the best part of his game. He's 16-3, very credible losses against Yair again, and he just his shoulder gave out, so he didn't even lose against Yair. He really just lost to Max Holloway and Andre Arlovsky or Andre Volkanovski. He lost to two champions. He lost both his title fights. That's what he lost to Max and Volk, the two goats. So no shame there. However, his striking's okay. It's not great. He's extremely hittable on the feet. Like I could hit this guy on the feet if I needed to. His wrestling's not great. World class on the ground. Top three in his weight class on the ground. But his wrestling to get it there is kind of debatable. He'll mix in a takedown if he can, but it's usually later on in the fight or against Yair Rodriguez. He took Yair down easily, but Yair is some of the worst takedown defense I've ever seen. He loves to move forward. He'd pressure you and gas you out. That's what he wants to do. And then you ultimately break, and then he finishes you. He did that to Chan Sung Jung. He didn't get the finish, but he broke Korean Zombie just pressuring forward. Frankie Edgar, he knocked him out. He just knocked out old man Frankie. He lost round one to Cub Swanson, but ultimately pressured him and eventually won in round two. Renato Moicano went out there, eventually won in round three. Clay Guida eventually won in round three. Diego Brandao eventually won in round three. Diego Tavares eventually won in round three. Are you seeing a common theme here? He marches forward, gets hit an absolute shit ton, and then ultimately gasses you out and finishes you in round three. That's what he does every single time. Not a good striker, great on the ground, not a good wrestler, just pressure, 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 good cardio, ultimately get the finish and rely on that durability. But this is what's concerning me. The Yair fight last go around, where he ultimately got the finish in round three. He was getting he got 10-8 in round one. Like the ref was this close to stepping in and stopping the fight. So his little rope a dope that he likes to do, the Bart Simpson approach he also takes, where he lets you beat him up, Mark Andre Barrios style. It's not going to work later on in age. Because before, when he would march through it and just keep going forward, now he's marching forward and getting legitimately dropped, getting floored down to the ground, and then having to recover and then continue on what he's doing. One of these times, he's going to get put down to the ground and not get back up. And this is where we run into an issue with Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu practitioner. He's 29 years old. He has a 3.5 inch reach advantage in this matchup. And he himself, if Brian Ortega's not the best on the ground, it's Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez is so good on the ground. He is the Jiu Jitsu coach for champion, God, Alexa Grasso, for Irene Aldana, all these girls over in Mexico. He is their Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coach. and he is that good on the ground. The dude's the real deal. The problem with, or the other good thing about him is that he hits hard. He's not the greatest striker in the world, but he has these huge ass hands, and if he hits you, you feel it. We saw him knock out Sadiq Yusuf. We saw him knock out Pat Sabatini. We've seen him knock out Angel Rodriguez earlier. Like this dude's knocking out everyone, and he's a jiu-jitsu practitioner. In fact, he tapped out black belt Gavin Tucker, but outside of Gavin Tucker, his last one, two, three, four, his last four fights have all been knockouts. He fell in love with the knockout and realized how hard he truly hits. Dude cracks. And again, like I said, Ortega lets you hit him until you get tired. Does Diego Lopez get tired? Yeah, he does. Right around round three, he does get kind of tired there. So his wrestling, not good at all. But part of that is by design. I think it's good enough to stuff a Brian Ortega takedown. So Brian Ortega's going to have to eat shots, get Diego Lopez tired, and then try to finish him. And he's facing someone who's just as good on the ground. Will he be able to catch him at a submission? I don't know. That's probably going to have to be a ground and pound, to be honest with you. That's probably the only way. Does he have good enough takedowns to get him down there? I don't know. Um, I, I don't know. This is a weird fight, man. I don't like the way I don't like the odds. I've also seen Diego Lopez knocked out in the past. He has been knocked out. He's been chin checked, but it's very rare. Uh, Diego also loves to counter, and that's my biggest ordeal. That's why I'm going to ultimately pick Diego Lopez. He loves to counter strike with big power shots, and Ortega marches forward and just throws shit out there with no setup whatsoever. He's begging to get countered. He wants to get countered, so you get tired. I don't know if he needs to be taking these shots from Diego Lopez. I don't think he does. I think Lopez is very alive by knockout. I also think he hasn't honestly has a chance of submitting him. He's that good. He can submit anyone. A club and sub is very likely. How he wins a decision, I'm not too sure. If it's a decision, I think it's going the Ortega route. I think it's a Lopez finish or a Ortega decision. I don't know. This is another tough one, man. This is a great card to watch. Very tough card to bet. Ultimately, I'm not going to turn my back on my boy. Never turn your back on your boys. I'm going to pick Diego Lopez. Out of respect, I'm going to bet Diego Lopez. A minus 140 is a good enough line where I would probably leave him alone in parlays, and I'm just going to bet my boy solo because he's my guy. I love Diego Lopez. I will continue to support him. In a 50-50 fight, he will have my money. And that takes us to the main event. If you haven't already, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever there's social media. There's a Stats and Stacks podcast. We have the rematch on short notice. Alex Pereira as a minus 130 favorite going against Yuri Prochazka at plus 110. These lines have virtually flipped since last time. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 160. Under 1.5 at plus 125. Let's start with Alex Pereira because Conor McGregor is no longer in the main event because he has a broken pinky toe. Rumor is Alex Pereira has two broken toes currently, but he's still fighting. He's over at Teixeira MMA, world class striking, multiple time, multiple division kickboxing champion over at Glory. Ton of power. That's it. He's not a good MMA fighter. He has 70% takedown defense, and there have been very few attempts. Like Andre Michaelinas was taking him down. Israel Adesanya took him down. Bruno Silva took him down. None of these guys are wrestlers. His takedown defense is not very good. His jiu-jitsu is not very good. I know he trains with Glover, and he's very diligent. I will give him that he works his ass off. I respect Alex. I truly do. I just don't think it's just years of experience that he's behind. It's not an indictment on him. He's just not a grappler because he spent so much time striking. But no one can strike like him either, outside of Izzy. Dude's world class striker, and he has that power. He has good cardio. He'll go a hard 25 minutes. He got the belt by winning it in the fifth round. So at the end of the day, although I think he might be the worst champion currently between him and DDP for sure, just talent wise he has my respect. He's a great striker, and he can win any fight because if he clips you, you are going out. The dude hits that hard. Francis Ngannou level power. On the other side, we have Yuri Prochazka, who is just a wild man. 31 years old. Oh, and Alex is also 36, making him ultimately kind of chinny. We saw Izzy rock him in their first fight. We saw Izzy knock him out in their second fight. We saw Bruno Silva rock him before. He's been rocked multiple times in the octagon. Yuri Prochazka also rocked him in the first fight. Yuri is 31 years old, good striking. Okay, BJJ. Uh, I don't know, man. He's just so fucking hittable because he refuses to keep his hands up. His striking defense is some of the worst I've ever seen in the octagon. His jiu-jitsu, again, he tapped out Glover, but that's not his bread and butter. It was a tired Glover, so any black belt turns into a white belt when he's getting punched and is gassed out. His wrestling, we saw him try to offensively wrestle against Alex Pereira, and that ultimately got him knocked out. He got elbowed while wrestling, dropped to a knee, and got clipped. Like, that wasn't good. So I don't know if he's going to wrestle this time. He got knocked out from wrestling. So in the rematch, is he going to do it? I don't know. With Alex's broken toes, is he going to be able to utilize those low leg kicks and take away Yuri's mobility? I don't know, because Yuri's last fight against whatchamacallit, Alex, sorry, against Alexander Rakic, fight almost ended with leg kicks because the dude does not block shots with like thrown at his face. He doesn't check kicks. The dude has a samurai mindset where he can't get hurt. He tells himself he's not hurt. He lost feeling in his leg and was stomping the ground and smacking his chest to hype himself up to continue to fight. Dude didn't think checking leg kicks or blocking a shot were good alternatives. No, I'm going to pound my chest and stomp my leg. The more hype I am, the better I fight. To his credit, he won. He got the knockout doing so. But please don't let Alex Pereira punch you in the face. I don't think that's a good idea. Yuri also has pretty good cardio. But again, my best friend, my boy Steve, told me no fight ends like the first fight ever. And the first fight ended in round two. So this fight, the over under sitting at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 160. Under 1.5 plus 125. I'm going to take the over at minus 160. Vegas is even telling us that's favored to happen. So that's the way I'm going to play this. I'm not going to pick a side. If I'm picking anything, I'm going to pick Alex because he already won this matchup. If I'm betting anything, it's going to be Yuri. If I'm picking a side in betting because he's the dog. But otherwise, I might have a bet on the over 1.5. This fight was close to going over the 1.5 last time, and no fight ends the same way as it did in the first. So I am going to, and we have an injured Yuri's not 100%. Alex is not 100%. He has broken toes right now. I think the over is extremely live. So the pick is going to be Alex. The bet is going to be the over 1.5. And if you need plus money, you can bet on Yuri. And that's UFC 303, Pereira versus Prochazka. Again, it's going to be a more fun fight card to watch than the bet. But if we can make money while enjoying this entertainment, it's just even better. Let's keep the good times rolling, baby. Let's get it.